Welcome to your Hammers Chat season review so far. 12 games in, you're joined by me and Gonzo. We're going to go through various topics and give our answers to who we think is performing or not performing. Gonzo kicking us off is at Den_Vincent on Twitter. He wants to know who our signing of the season so far is.
Well, this is an interesting question because I've had a little think about this because we obviously knew we were doing the video tonight. And I think the obvious one, first of all, the first one that jumped in my mind was Fabianski, because he's just been outstanding in every game when called upon. He's done some wonderful saves that have kept us in games and probably stopped us in others shipping a lot more goals than we did do. And then I started to think, well, hold on a second. Diop has been a very good signing. And really is sort of what constitutes a good signing. Because if we're dealing with who's been, you know, at the best average mark in every match, I probably would say Fabianski. But then I thought Diop, well, he's done, as a signing, we thought that's quite a lot of money to spend, 23 million. And actually, he looks like he's doubled in value. So does that, well, possibly, but does that make him our best signing? But then I came to the one that I've probably settled on, and that's Balbuena, who's probably slipped under the radar, but for all the reasons that I just said about Diop. Now, when you spend 23 million, you want to get a player. You hope you're going to get a player, particularly a 23 million pound defender at a club like West Ham. When you spend 3 or 4 million, you're not so sure. You're rummaging around in the lucky dip, aren't you, really? And in many respects, he sometimes looks like the 23 million pound defender. And for that reason, I'm going to go with Balbuena, I think, mate.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, actually. I went for Balbuena as well. Again, it's coming from the value angle, isn't it? In the Premier League, a £4 million signing is someone you'd expect to make 4 appearances in a season, and he's actually become one of the first names on the team sheet, if you like. If it was sort of best signing, I'd probably go for Fabianski, actually, but I'm looking at it from a pound note perspective. Fabianski's age also comes into it in the sense that he's been there, he's done that. He's only got a couple more seasons left. Well, Balbuena's got more here. And no one had really heard of him, actually. And these signings are what I think can be the difference between you spending 20 million in the summer and 100 million in the summer and knowing what you're getting for. This is where directors of football earn their money, if you like. And I think I'm going to go with you on this one, actually, Balbuena. The question that will come up in May, Gonzo, but who's your Hammer of the Year so far?
Well, again, I mean, I don't want to keep talking about Fabianski and not giving it to him. But he's been very good, again, for all the reasons that I just described. But thinking through it, I would probably going to go with Declan Rice just for his consistency. And I think it's ever so easy to sometimes, you sort of damn them with faint praise when you give them the young Hammer of the Year or the PFA, the young PFA player. Well, just sometimes a young player is just as bloody good as the rest of the grown-ups, you know? And Declan gets that for me, particularly bearing in mind he was dropped so early in the season. And then for him to come back and show that level of consistency in the area of the field that we are really, really struggling. He's got to get it. He's going to get it for me. I mean, as I say, maybe a bit harsh on Fabianski, who may well come the end of the year get the Hammer of the Year. He really might. I hope he doesn't, because it means we've had a lot of shots on our goal. But Declan Rice is going, you know, he's making huge strides forward into winning that, I tell you.
Funny enough, people are going to think me and you conferred over answers.
We're not smoking.
But you've named. I wrote 3 players down here, and I tried to do a process of elimination, if you like. Now you've named 2 of them with Declan Rice and Fabianski, but the third one for me, you named we both spoke about him for the sign of the season, and that's Diop, because. And that's who is my Hammer of the Year so far. But there might once a game, it's only once a game, he will do a last-ditch tackle that saves you points, essentially. While Fabianski's fantastic, there's some chances Diop stopped. Actually, I'm not sure Fabianski would have got to should that striker have taken their chance and stuff. Against Huddersfield, he did it against Huddersfield. He somehow covered 15 yards when the attacker only had 5. He did it against Harry Kane as well. He's doing tackles he's got no right to do, if you like. And then he's changed our defence completely from a ball playing point of view. I think sometimes some games I've seen him pass it to a fullback and he actually takes a couple of steps up to work the angle and say, give it back to me now. Let's do a 1-2, move the ball up pitch. So Diop's my Hammer of the Year thus far, but it's between those 3 for me, Fabianski, Rice and Diop. Interestingly, what's your highlight of the season so far? Your own personal highlight as well.
In a season where we've won 8-0, Let's get that straight here, which is not going to be the 8-0, but I just wanted to get that in there. I wasn't there. Maybe if I was there, that might have been my highlight, particularly as Dean Garner coming through and whatnot. It's a really nice thing. But I thought actually just beating Man U, being there as well, the whole day out, and how buzzing you are when you beat a team like that who've spent so much money, have got such good players, and the manner in which we beat them, we really took the game to them as well. And I remember looking at it afterwards, and it wasn't a David Moyes back to the wall. I think we'd had sort of 51-52% of the possession, so we had a real cracking go at them. And it was hard, thinking about that. As I say, we won 8-0. We'd beaten Everton really well as well, which I thought was a pivotal part in the season, by the way. Probably the most pivotal game where we started to not look like we were going down, if you like. But there's something very special about beating Man United, and we needed a victory like that, particularly in that stadium.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Man U as well. It was enjoyable. We've not had. I know you're laughing, but there's not that many to choose from. We've only won a few games.
I know. I'm wondering if I've left my notes anywhere, and you read it,
But I'm going to choose Man U for similar, but also different reasons. While I enjoy the camaraderie and I enjoy myself and where I was for the game, the atmosphere was fantastic from start to finish, etc. There was a couple of moments in that game that was pivotal for me. One of them was Pogba getting subbed off and the crowd cheering at him. So there was all that stuff with Mourinho and Pogba. And we played so well that Pogba barely got a touch of the ball and barely got a sniff. And Mourinho had to sub him. And we all cheered. And I thought, hang on a minute, we're West Ham cheering a £90 million player getting subbed off pitch because he's failed to have an impact. And I thought, what a compliment to our performance today, that the £90 million player, once he was the most expensive player in the world of football, he's not been able to influence the game whatsoever. And also, it was Anderson's performance for me, because there was a lot of if, buts, and maybes about Anderson, and that sort of put them on hold until the Burnley game. But that game, I thought he was fantastic in, and that flick, that goal, I've not seen a player have that sort of thing about him since Payet, if you like. The ball come in, and I think everyone else in our team would have tried to touch it and hit it, whereas he flicked it. I don't think anyone else in our squad would try what he tried, especially when you haven't yet got your first goal for the club. I don't think he had at this point. He's possibly low in confidence, got a lot of question marks against his name. To try it and pull it off was fantastic, and that's what I want to see. Your disappointing player of the season so far. I don't want to make the show completely positive. I had to throw something in there to make it a little bit negative. So this is the one that sort of I'm feeding the fishing line for you, Gonzo. Are you going to bite? Who's your disappointing player so far?
Well, again, I think we'll go with 2 or 3, and I'll give you my first. I think the easy one to say is Wilshere. Big wages. We had big problems in midfield, and we were hoping that Jack Wilshere was going to fix them. However, and I know that it didn't take a clairvoyant to realise that he was going to get injured, but a large part of the disappointment has been because of the injury. I do wonder how much of a part he would have played if he was fit. So maybe it's a tad harsh to choose him. And look, if we signed an injured player, then that's not Jack's fault. That's actually maybe our board shouldn't have done that. So let's deal with people that are fit and ready to play. I mean, you might say Chicharito as again, not lived up to top. But I also think Masuaku was perhaps not pushed on from last season, albeit he was playing further forward for Moyes. There was real promise last season. I just don't think he's kicked on. But I have to say, probably the most, this what we're calling the disappointed, the Chiate Award. Is that what that's the Chiate Award, isn't it? The disappointment of the season so far has been Antonio, because I just wonder where the player of a couple of seasons ago is. I wish he would kick on. I know there's a player in there, but it's just showing none of that stuff that he used to show, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I can't really choose Antonio actually, because I wasn't expecting much from him, so I can't be disappointed by him, if you like. I was tempted to pick Wilshere as well, because I remember when we did a cup of tea after we got beat by Wolves at home, we did it the following morning in the Moxie, and I sort of had a go at Wilshere in that, if you like. And I stand by that, because I do think, like you said, we've spent so much money on him, but because of his injury, he sort of gets a pass for now, if you like. Come May, it might be a bit different, but for now, he's going to get... And then that left me 3 players. One was Obiang, I still don't get Obiang. I still don't get it. I don't get him. I don't get what he is. What is he meant to be? He's still jack of all trades, master of none for me. And I think in this day and age, I think you need to have specialists in your team a little bit. You need the guy that can cover the back four. You need the guy that can link the attack to defense. And I think that Obiang sort of does a little bit of everything, but not for something. That left two players for me, Masuaku and Creswell. And I'm going to lump them both together and pick both of them here because the left back position, I thought, these players were made for Pellegrini's system. Pellegrini likes attacking fullbacks. Perfect. You two are attacking fullbacks. This is your chance. You're both good with the ball at your feet. You both like to get forward. You're both capable of delivering a decent ball. Creswell more than Masuaku. I just don't think either of them have grasped it. And the fact that we have to keep changing our left back every second game now shows that neither of them are impressing Pellegrini. So I'm going to be a little bit of a chicken here and pick two players, but I can't split Creswell and Masuaku. For me, they're both the disappointing player of the season so far. But speaking of letting Pellegrini down, our manager, what do you make of Pellegrini so far? He's one of the best paid managers in the world of football.
Yeah, we are probably paying him we're possibly paying him more than Pochettino earns, for instance. So he's one of the top 4 highest paid managers in the Premier League. Are we getting that? No. But again, it's not Pellegrini's fault that he's being paid as much as he is. If you asked to quadruple my wages, I would say yes. Would I suddenly become 4 times as good a bathroom fitter? No, you're getting the same one, but you're just paying me lots of money. But with that in mind, I do think he's brought an ethos. And I do think he's brought a structure to the club. I love the way he came in and said the training ground's crap, sort it out. And I love the fact that he's managed to get our owners to spend money as well. I think that's great. And I love the fact that we attack. And I no longer go and watch a game of football. I hark back to that time where I switched on. I think it finished on 23%. But I switched on the stats when I was watching a match last season. There was a point in a match, and I don't mean at the start, 60, 70 minutes, we had 18% possession. But what is this? This is absolutely ridiculous. I know we didn't go on to win the game. That's gone. He makes attacking substitutions, and a lot of the signings that come in have played well within his system. He's not tearing up any trees, but I do think the longer he stays, the more of his own stamp he'll put on the team, and the better football that we'll play. And it's something that you used to say, you know, about Bilic and even to a lesser extent Moyes. You used to say, well, these guys can only plan for the long term if they're given long-term contracts. And I do wonder if that rings true now. He's got a 3-year deal that really he can't be sacked from because he's on too much money. He can't pay the guy. No one's paying him 30 million, particularly on our owners. So maybe he does feel he can play Rice. Maybe he does feel he can play Dean Garner. And I think that's helped. That's a major thing as well. The playing of the youth players has been huge. And you know what? We went out in a cup, but he did take the cup seriously. He is playing football on the deck. It is more entertaining. We are attacking, and he is bringing youth players through. And actually, all the things I used to whinge about, he's doing. The fact that we are, you know, maybe not riding high in the league, well, that's fine. I didn't expect to be top 4. So, by and large, it ain't bad at all.
If you had to give him a mark out of 10, just for the sake of it, just for the viewers, what would you give him? 10 obviously being fantastic and 0 being crap, sack him.
I'd probably give him a 6, but that's not to be negative. I think a 6 at this early stage is okay, and because I do think it's only getting better. I don't think it's going to dip down to a 4 or anything like that. And you know what? Maybe we need a bit of steady progress. There's been so much upheaval with grounds and training grounds and players and managers, and maybe we need to be a 6 for this year. So as next year we can be a 7. Maybe we just need to do it slowly. I don't mind that at all. You know, there's many a good club have been built up slowly.
He's I can sort of repeat what you've said a few times, but I'm just going to try and throw some other stuff in there that I appreciate about him. I think he's brought a stubbornness about him. I think he's come in and thought, hopefully people don't take this the wrong way. He's almost come in and said, I am bigger than West Ham. I am a bigger manager than West Ham deserve to an extent. I can manage the top clubs in the world of football. I don't need the West Ham. West Ham need Pellegrini more than Pellegrini needed West Ham, if that makes sense. He was on plenty of money in China. He didn't need this job. He could have went to a bigger club in European football if he really wanted to, if he waited for it, but he didn't. He came here. And I think he's took a stubbornness with him. Like he said, he's managed to get Sullivan to do something that no other manager's done. That's spend money and also back off with the transfers a little bit. It's something Allardyce tried. It's something Moyes tried. It's something Bilic tried. They all tried to get Sullivan just to back off, but they couldn't manage it. Pellegrini's done it, and it was almost. You have to imagine it was part of the deal before Pellegrini had been signed on the line. He said, before I even come in here, you're getting the hell away from these transfers and letting me do what I want. I like that stubbornness. I think he's also building foundations, which is important, not just in Chadwell Heath, but when Bilic left, Moyes had to sort of fix Bilic's problems, and then Pellegrini's not had to fix. He's had to fix Moyes' problems from attacking point of view. And I just think whoever comes in after Pellegrini is going to be a lot better suited than Pellegrini, Moyes, Bilic, etc. I know people say Bilic had Allardyce's defensive foundations. I don't buy that to an extent because we were still conceding a lot under Allardyce at the end of it. So every manager we've had has had to sort of fix what was left behind from the previous guy before they could focus on what they want to do. And I just feel like after Pellegrini, the foundations are pretty solid for someone to come in and pick up where Pellegrini's left off and carry on with it. His substitutions is the only thing I'm not too keen on right now. I'm very Marmite with them. Some games I love them and some games I hate them. He just throws on attacking players. And I've seen, if he does against Man City what he's done with other teams, i.e. leave Declan Rice in midfield and just throw on attackers, we're going to get humiliated if Man City are in the mood. And that scares me a little bit. There's a little bit of Bilic about it. And you can get away with that when you're the manager of Man City and you're throwing on Balotelli and whatnot, and you're leaving company in defence. But West Ham, we don't have that luxury a little bit. But that's my only criticism. The football's enjoyable. I'm looking forward to football a lot more. It no longer feels like a chore going to home games. It's a 7 out of 10 for me. But I'm very, very patient with Pellegrini. Very, very patient, and I'm not nervous whatsoever. At 4D Senior, Peter says, from you're going from the manager to the board, what's your performance of the board so far? Now, he did put in brackets, say, media, backing the manager, etc.
Okay, well, but two different. I mean, great. You know, it's great you split the question there because it's a split answer, isn't it? So, back the manager. Well, they have backed the manager. They've paid him big wages. They've brought in his favoured fitness coach. They've brought in a sporting director, or whatever you want to call it, that he wanted. He's got his number 2. He's got his number 3. He's got everything that he wanted. And as I said earlier, they've backed him with money to buy the players that he wants. His big signing, as you have often said on this channel, was Anderson. And he went out and got him, no matter how difficult Lazio made it. They went out and they got him. So he has been trusted, and it looks like, I know. I think basically they've extended the training ground by putting up a temporary bouncy castle for 3 years, but that's while planning is done for the permanent structure. No, honestly, it does have an inflatable roof. We are getting we're basically getting a wedding marquee to extend the training ground, but I do think that's pending some proper planning approval. So the training ground gets extended. So they've backed him on everything that he's asked for. So great job there. The other section of the media, it's still, they just can't quite help themselves. They can't. You've only got to look at David Gold. Look at David Gold a couple of days ago with Scudamore. I mean, it was absolute lunacy. I don't know why he was there, but I mean, he certainly shouldn't have said what he said. And there's not been too much of that, actually, the foot in the mouth stuff. They have reined that in a lot. So that's the first one we've seen. But has that meant they've been quiet? No, they've still leaked far too much stuff. The Declan Rice contract situation, far too much that was leaked, and they tried to leak more, by the way. They tried to leak a lot more than that. It got to a point where a couple of websites said, actually, let's just leave it. Let's just leave it there with that. And then we've also had the thing recently with Arnautovic, and don't get me wrong, no, that wasn't, his brother and himself stirred that up a little bit. They could have done a lot better, but again, the ball waded in and started leaking. Sullivan started leaking information left, right, and centre, and there's just too much of that going on. It's something that doesn't happen at other clubs, and that it's almost like they can't help it. Yes, they've withdrawn themselves. They speak publicly? Does he do interviews with Sky? No, not so much anymore. The newspaper interviews appear to have gone as well, but he just can't help but leak, which is basically propaganda. Now, some of it might be. It just seems like, particularly with the Declan Rice situation, he's trying to put pressure on Declan Rice to sign a contract by leaking to the fans, almost not trying to make him unpopular to the fans, but wanting the fans to say, oi, Rice, sign this contract. And almost the same thing you feel is happening with Arnautovic. I do sense that there have been some interest for Arnautovic, and I do sense that Arnautovic's brother wants to up the price. But do you know what I mean? I still think that Sullivan comes straight in and says, "Oh, he wants 200 grand," whether he does, to almost turn people against him. So people say, "Oh, I know," and that's not good. That needs to be cut out. So yeah, two answers to two questions.
I can only repeat that, really. I thought the transfer window, they got spot on. I thought they got spot on. We can all sit here and say, "Oh, we signed injury-proven players," blah blah blah. But the thing is, they took a risk on Jack Wilshere. It hasn't worked out so far. It might work out in the second half of the season. We don't know. Pellegrini genuinely wanted him, fair enough. If he did or not, I don't know. I think Wilshere's demands probably just come down and met what Sullivan was prepared to pay him. So he thought, you know what, we'll have him. He's free and we need to spend 40 million on Anderson, sorted. But the transfer window as a whole, I was happy with it. I'm not going to go back on it now, despite the fact that half of them, Fredericks, Wilshere, Yarmolenko, and Sanchez, are all got 3-month injuries onwards. But that's not something I'm going to lay at their door. If you can lay something at their door, is the fact that these injuries are still occurring. So whether that's a West Ham thing or they're buying the wrong players or something, but I'm not going to hit them with that stick. Actually, you've actually touched on the media stuff is what I was going to hit them with, because they are doing the dirty, whether it's on Rice or Arnautovic or Pellegrini's management. How's Pellegrini meant to manage his team when he's got this going on behind his back, if you like? It's almost like Sullivan doesn't want Pellegrini to know he does it, but actually Pellegrini probably is fully aware it's bloody him that does it, because it's got Sullivan's paw prints all over it. This is the same. And what worries me actually with this Arnautovic thing, this reminds me so much of the Dimitri Payet situation. This is what happened when Payet first wanted to leave. We all got told about how he wants so much money, but the problem was back then the fans went, "Well, give him it then." So they didn't really have a way out. They just had to give him it, and they did. But Payet still had to go. And I just think, I agree with you. The cynic in me, I just cannot trust them yet. I cannot trust David Sullivan yet. So this makes me think they're releasing this 200 grand a week thing to make the fans go, money grabbing bugger, get him out of here. And the bid comes in, sell him. I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to force the fans to think one way. But the problem is, we've all wised up. We all know what he does. So this Arnautovic thing comes out, everyone goes, bollocks, don't believe it. And the other thing I will hit them with is not having Declan Rice tied down to a contract. That is a massive own goal for me. They're dragging their feet. We're now seeing in the news, which we'll cover next time we do a cup of tea, Declan Rice has now been linked to like some Man U or something. Tell you what, nobody is surprised, okay? Not one person is surprised. And his transfer value is heavily affected by how long he's got on his contract left and his happiness at West Ham, etc. And that has been affected by David Sullivan, David Gold, dragging their feet with giving him the deal he wants stuff. That overshadows everything for me. If he still leaves, Declan Rice will leave West Ham at some point. They're only making it happen sooner rather than later, and that's what worries me a lot. And for all the good they've done in the summer, it can easily be undone just like that if we lose Declan Rice. I can stand losing Marko Arnautovic if we can get value for money. Declan, no. And the thing is, the ball's always been in their court. It's just that David Sullivan hasn't wanted to play ball because he just has to dictate everything. And he's not getting his way. And he's very much the child that when you played football on the street, if his team wasn't winning or whatever, he would pick the ball up and go home so no one else could play football. That is David Sullivan. And I think that's what he's doing, Declan Rice. And it's going to buy him in the arse eventually. Our second last question is from @Doobs Official. Daniel says, what's your best individual performance so far? Now, this is an interesting question, actually. I like this question. Outside the box thinking here.
Okay. I mentioned earlier that I thought the Everton game was a pivotal point in our season. I think if we'd have lost that, we were in big, serious trouble, because I think it would have really been hard to turn momentum around. Also, it's a very, very difficult place for us to go. And there was something that happened, and there have been many, many good individual performances. We've spoken about Declan Rice, you've spoken about Diop, Fabianski. They've all had wonderful performances, man of the match performances. But I think there was a pivotal point in that game. And we'd waited for him to get fit. It took him a long time. Ironically, he's not fit now. People already know that. I'm going to talk about Yarmolenko, because I think there was a point in that game with Yarmolenko's combination with Arnautovic, which won us that game. And he looked absolutely brilliant. And do you know what? You may well find better performances this season, but as an important point in time where someone stood up and changed the direction of our season, I think that was the point. That was it right there. So it's going to be Yarmolenko in conjunction with Arnautovic in that game was just superb.
Yeah, I knew which player I wanted to choose here. I chose the player before the performance. And the funny thing is, I had two performances in mind from him, and I was struggling which game I actually thought he played better in. But for me, he was number one and number two. That's Declan Rice. The two performances is one at Everton. I thought he was unbelievable. I thought he didn't do anything wrong whatsoever. I thought he was amazing in that midfield. And I remember thinking that's the best performance I've seen from him in a West Ham shirt. The following week, we played Chelsea at home when we drew 0-0. And I thought, wow. Last week I thought was his best performance. He's somehow bettered it this week. And I'm going to go for his performance against Chelsea. I thought he was just he looked like the Chelsea midfielder in that game. He looked like he could go in at halftime, put a Chelsea shirt on, and come out in the second half. And actually, he looks like he belongs in a side challenging for the title. He looks like he can play in a midfield who do 300 passes per game between them or whatever mad stat it is that they do. He would have slotted into that opposition team. But for me, the top two performances of the season is Rice and Rice. Unbelievably, it's harsh, actually. I wanted to pick Anderson for Burnley, and I feel bad not doing it. But Rice has just been 10 out of 10 in those two games for me, and that's that. Gonzo, how would you sum up the season so far in your own words then? Are you happy with how it's gone, and what are you expecting for the rest of the season?
I expect us to continue to improve. Am I happy with how it's gone? There were dire warnings at the start. We started off with that thumping to Liverpool. I wasn't happy with how we went out in the cup. We mentioned Pellegrini earlier. I wasn't happy with the fact that he didn't keep the central defensive partnership, which was really flourishing at the time. I wasn't happy that he didn't keep that as it was. I think had we have kept the same back four, we might have been in with a shout of staying into that cup, in for that cup. There have been, the Brighton one, I thought we took a while to get going as well. Having said that, for all the reasons I said earlier, I am not going to complain about it because I think we're pointing in the right direction and doing things the right way. What do I expect for the rest of the season? I just expect us to keep improving. And I do expect having the board having gone out on a limb to support him. It's almost, I bet they thought if they were spending 100 billion, they would have fully supported him. And they did, I get that. But actually, it looks like it might be 3/4 of a job done. And I'd like them to go and do the final quarter or whatever percentage you want to call it. So there's a couple of, we're close. We're close. I do think we're a left back and a midfielder away from being an even better team. I think that would really propel us. I think what I discussed last season, the amount of times I said to you last season, I want people to look at our team sheet and change theirs. I want them to look at ours and think, oh, crikey, I don't know what they're going to do here. Where's it going to come? And I tell you something now, if we get a new left back no, we do need a midfielder. If we get a new left back and we get someone else in midfield and then Lanzini comes back, we will pose people problems you would not want to face. You would not want to face us with Lanzini in the team, somebody, a real high energy midfielder, and someone who just shores up that problem position. You look at our centre backs, look at our forward line. You look at Noble, Rice in there as well. We've got a really good goalkeeper, and Arnautovic up top. We're a good team, and I expect them to carry on.
I'm pleased we're playing with the back four now. He's stuck with his back four, even though at times I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, we need to change about 5. We're conceding goals and stuff." I am delighted he's stuck with his back four, and we've now got 4 of our back 5, if you like, set. The 2 centre backs are right back and keeper. Yes, Zabaleta might need to be looked at in the summer, but until we get to them, we don't need to worry about it. We've got one of the most dependable right backs in the league, got one of the best partnerships forming in the centre of the defence. We've got a fantastic defence midfielder and a keeper. It's just that left back position. We're playing football the way I like it. What concerns me a little bit sometimes is the lack of effort. Literally in our last game against Huddersfield, I thought there was a massive lack of effort throughout the team. We need to work out why. There's a reason for that, because it's not the first time we've seen it this season either. There's been a few other occasions, a few other games we've come out of there thinking we didn't try hard enough. Wolves at home, I didn't think we tried hard enough. And there's something, there's a reason. Why that is, it's up to Pellegrini to find that out, because it can't be the personnel, because personnel is different in both games. One game had Noble starting, the other one didn't. So it's not the captain or the leadership. So there's something funny going on. That concerns me a little bit. Over the international break, it's come out that we've covered the second least distance in the league. I believe that because I witnessed it. It's no shock actually to find out that stat. Now, I'm not going to hit Pellegrini with that because I refuse to hit Bilic with that as well, when a lot of people are getting on Bilic's back. But I do find it funny while everybody uses to slaughter Bilic, nobody's using the same thing to slaughter Pellegrini. I do find that interesting, if you like. It does show that Pellegrini's probably got the backing of the fans compared to what Bilic had at that point. But I do think it's maybe hypocritical to an extent that if you're going to slag off one manager but the other manager gets passed, why is that making sense? You can't argue that we play a different style, we're playing more possession based, it's a bit slower, etc. I accept those reasons, but there is a lack of effort in some games. That's a slight concern, but we're going in the right direction. You touched on it there with the money. I actually think Pellegrini could spend another 100 million and we would still just should finish in the top half table side, because the gap is massive now. But the problem is we spent 100 million, and I don't think we are guaranteed to finish in top half table side yet. We've got the potential, but so do about 5-6 other teams. To get ahead of those, we need to spend another 100 million, I think. Left back, centre midfielder, maybe a creative midfielder, another striker perhaps. We still need all these positions. We're football fans. We're never going to be happy. Pellegrini's a football manager. He's never going to be happy. But my worry is the board think we've spent 100 million, job's done now. That's why we've probably got Nasri working his arse off for the next 6 weeks so that we've got a free signing because there's no money left. We've spent 100 million, job done. That concerns me a bit. It's job done if you want to stay in the Premier League. I think it's job done. But if you want to finish 8th, 7th, we're far from job done. There's still a long, long way to go. Pellegrini's got a 3-year contract. I'll be impressed if he keeps us in the top half of all 3 seasons. That'll be an achievement, I think. It's just a pity he's not a little bit younger and can oversee this project over 5-6 years, a bit like what Pochettino's doing at Spurs. I would love to have a manager who's here for the long-term future. But we'll wait and see. Gonzo, just quickly, give the season a mark at 10 so far, if you like.
6 again.
I'm gonna go 6 as well, purely because of the cup, as for reasons you mentioned. Biggest game of the season for me, and we lost it, and I don't think we took it seriously enough. But Gonzo, you've got a show tomorrow night over on the forum channel.
Yes, indeed. We've got a couple of videos, hopefully a couple more coming in from some of the other chaps and chapesses, if you would like to contribute as well. And we're going to be discussing, well, we were going to be discussing the Arnautovic situation, the contract situation, which got some videos on that, which we will be, but we're also going to open it up as well and look at this expanded capacity, which is going to make the London Stadium like a new camp, isn't it? Maybe not, but anyway, we're going to be discussing that tomorrow on the forum channel.
Brilliant. Head over to the forum channel. Link is in the description. Make sure you subscribe for that. Just past 1 million views. So thank you very much to everybody who's even just watched the one video. They all count. We're coming up to 2.5 million on this channel. So again, thank you as well. Subscribe if you're new around here. Drop a like on it. This week we'll have our Man City preview going up at some point. Me and Gonzo will try and squeeze in a cup of tea at some point, but it's a bit difficult with our schedule. And then, of course, we've got the City game on Saturday. Thank you very much. Join us. See you soon. And also, in the comments below, let us know your answer to the following questions. The sign of the season so far, me and Gonzo agree on Balbuena, but cases for Fabianski and Diop. Have the year so far, me and Gonzo disagree on there slightly. You've got your highlight of the season so far. Disappointing player so far. There's a few to choose from, which is a bit worrying. And your thoughts on Pellegrini so far? Has he impressed you? What's he got to do to impress you for the rest of the season? Your performance of the board, while they've kept that shut, but they're still doing it on the sly, if you like, but we know about it. And we'll tell you in the cup of tea. If you don't know about it, we'll keep you up to date on the cup of tea when they're doing that on the sly. And of course, your best individual performance and what you think of the season. But I've been Geo, that's been Gonzo, we've been Hammer Chatting. This has been your review of the season so far. Catch you in a bit.